the end of the day, someone that is that given to trying to exploit everything as something sensational, do you really want them back making decisions that could be war and peace and economy?
The always brilliant and insightful Reverend Al Sharpton. Let's see. Do you really want to have someone like Trump back in charge of matters of war and peace and the economy? Like when there was no land war in Europe and Putin was in a cage and Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping were quaking in their boots and Iran was terrified of us. We had $2 gas prices, 2% inflation, the lowest unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanic, women, Asians, pretty much all of us. In decades, we didn't have 9% inflation. Oh, and our grocery store shelves were full. Automobile prices were not at the highest in history. You see this? Car prices now have topped out at more than, what is the number, Michael? More than $48,000. The average automobile price in the United States now more than $48,000, skyrocketing year after year. The Washington Post doesn't talk about it because they're a gang of filthies. Filthies. You know what the filthies are. They're a gang of filthies. Democrats. They're a bunch of Democrats. Well, happy Wednesday to you. It's hump day in the Clinton household. Hillary Clinton waking up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit. It's sad and funny at the same time. I don't know how the Democrats keep doing this. Do you know how the Democrats keep doing this? They take things that are sad and tragic, or at least ought to be, and they make them funny. I don't know how they do it. They keep doing it, and I'm thankful. Let me just say that I'm truly thankful that they assist me with such elan. They're quite extraordinary. We are, of course, at 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625 is the telephone number here. And I got a whole bunch of stuff. And I came in and Michael said, hey, I got some Reverend Al Sharpton stuff for you today. He said, would you really want to have, in his eloquent and articulate way, would you really want to have Trump, this guy, in charge of matters of war and peace and the economy? And we both burst out laughing. No, I'd really rather have Joe Biden because, the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon.
Do you really want them back making decisions that could be war and peace and economy?
How many tens of billions? We're over 100 billion to Ukraine, I think, right? What's the body count? I want to point out again, the news media doesn't cover the war in Ukraine. It's as if it's not happening. It's as if it's a make-believe war, a pretend war. What happened to that? There used to be a job title. It was war correspondent. What happened to that? That job title under Joe Biden doesn't exist anymore now that there's a major land war in Europe. Pay no attention to that. Just extraordinary. And of course, gas prices and inflation and unemployment numbers and grocery store shelves. And we were living the high life under President Trump. Then the commies, with a little help from Anthony Fauci and the American taxpayer, came up with this Wuhan Red Death. The Wuhan Red Death they came up with. Who's had the Wuhan Red Death? Raise your hand. You have, see, Michael raised his hand. I got my hand raised. I've had it twice. How many of you had it once? You've had it 2 times. Michael, see, I lost track. I'm so sorry. Michael's had it twice. He's had the Wuhan twice. And, that's why I'm not wearing it today, but I just looked down at my chest to see what I was wearing. But I'm not wearing my I Survived the Wuhan Red Death t-shirt with the bat on it, that we made. And we made that a little early. A lot of people said when we made that T-shirt, do you think really? Because a lot of people are still, and it's kind of rough. And I say, yeah, almost everybody's surviving the Wuhan Red Death. Although I did read in the Washington Post today. Have you heard of that? That used to be a newspaper. I read in the Washington. I get it at my front doorstep. I kind of don't know why, but I get it anyway. And it showed up, and there were. It's like reading enemy dispatches. Gentlemen don't read other gentlemen's mail. Famous line from World War II, but never mind that. I do read their dispatches, and they put them in the Washington Post and the New York Times and things. And there were some fascinating things in there today. And I was laughing. My best girl was laughing out loud. We laugh at the Washington Post. It reads like comedy much of the time. And today I read that it says that there are 7 million deaths attributed to the Wuhan Red Death, although technically they didn't call it the Wuhan Red Death, but they should, because it came from Wuhan, which is red communist China, and it causes death. See, so Wuhan Red Death, not to be confused with Edgar Allan Poe's The Mask of the Red Death, because it's also a literary reference. They're not going to get that at the Washington Post either. Not very bright, not a very bright bunch. But I read, it said they attributed 7 million deaths to the Wuhan Red Death, and it said, but the number may be 2 or 3 times that. That's what it said, worldwide, that it may be 2 or 3 times. You know what that means, Michael? That means 14 million or 21 million. See, that's 7 times 2 and 7 times 3. So they're saying that the actual death toll from the communists playing with biological warfare agents at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, may have killed 21 million people, which is the one thing that communists are good at, isn't it? And they harvest organs too. Hey, wait, Democrats do that. I know there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of overlap between the two, and with good reason, I've got to say. But that's what the Washington Post said the actual number may be 2 or 3 times that. And they can't just publish, they have fact checkers. They can't just publish fake stuff, like Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation, and President Trump is colluding with Russia, and Joe Biden has no nefarious, curious, suspicious relationship with Ukraine or Romania or China or Russia. All that's fine. See, they have fact checkers. They check that stuff, right? It should be called the Washington Pinocchio, because it's such a joke. But it did say 2 or 3 times. And they've got a piece in the Washington Post that kind of surprised me, because it says that the communists in China knew about the Wuhan Red Death all along, and that now the Washington Post is admitting, what's the date today, Michael? It's August 23rd of 2023 A.D., Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. They don't use that either. They use CE in the Common Era because they're godless commies. That's why they use that. And so it turns out the Washington Post says, say, wait a minute, we didn't know all this stuff. See, if they all listened to this radio show, they'd be years ahead of where they are now. Maybe this is because the Wuhan, because I know it led to a lot of intellectual, educational, developmental impedance. The Wuhan Red Death did. And that apparently happened at the Washington Post and the New York Times, too. Like the kids didn't learn very much in school for a couple of years. And the kids at the Washington Post and the New York Times, they didn't learn very much. Might have been wearing masks that caused their brains to slow down or something like that. But it's pretty amazing. So we got that story in the Washington Post there. And I want to share some of that with you. And the Washington Post with a shocking piece today. It's an opinion piece. It's an opinion piece. Says why the Hunter Biden saga deserves a serious investigation. Wow. Again, if you guys had been listening to this show, you could have published this story years ago, but you're too dumb. Or is it too dishonest? I think it's a combination of things. Don't you, Michael? I think it is. Combination of low IQ, personal corruption, and institutional corruption at the Washington Post. And just not good people either. So why the Hunter Biden saga deserves a serious investigation finally appeared in the Washington Post, and I laughed out loud, I've got to say. Funny stuff. And let me see. Nevada officials are now actively investigating Joe Biden's vacation rental of an $18 million Lake Tahoe mansione. That's kind of fancy talk for mansion. And so Joe Biden's staying at this Tom Steyer, a billionaire Democrat donor, pseudo-presidential candidate. How did he make his crooked money? Tom Steyer. And it turns out that Joe Biden, they lied that he's paying fair market value for a rental for 8 days or something. It was going to be a week, but they added a day when he had to go to Maui and say all those stupid things, incredibly stupid things. What a numbskull this guy is. What a dimwit. And really, Joe Biden has to go. He's not a good president. Oh, speaking of which, we have this nice lady that posted a video. What is that on? On Instagram?
It's a TikTok.
It's a TikTok video, which the Chinese communists run. But there's this American lady who posted a video talking about, because you saw, I talked about it yesterday a little bit, although I didn't become very upset about it, that there are some places that are bringing back mask mandates, a college in Atlanta and a movie company in Santa Monica, Los Angeles, California, bringing back mask mandates because at the Lionsgate, some of their people got the Wuhan, got the woo. I got the woo. I got the woo. Dun 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 dun. And so they're bringing back the mask mandate. And now the Democrats, Democrats don't care what you do as long as it's mandatory. And so they're talking about bringing back mask mandates. And they're talking about bringing back booster shot mandates. And I got to tell you, even left-wingers yesterday were saying in front of me, I'm not getting another shot. I've had it with that. I'm not getting another. I'm not, if you want to wear a mask, this is lefties yesterday. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask. If you got 7 comorbidities and you ask me to wear a mask when we're driving in a car together, then maybe. And this is lefties yesterday. And then saying, I'm not getting one more shot. I've had enough of those shots. But the lefties, because they're fascists, they're talking about, and they don't care what you do as long as it's mandatory. And they're the ones that mandate the things, right? So we got that going on. And so we got that. Now, I want to get into that because there's a bit of that going on. And then this nice person posting a video. She's ranting and raving. We had to break out the beep machine because she was expressing herself in a free and uninhibited fashion. So we've got that for you. Should probably play that sooner rather than later because it's a ton of fun. She's just great. And so it's at long last time to investigate the Biden family. The Washington Post says, that means, poing. It's putting a pin in the balloon. When even the Washington Post is just one person there, and it's not even their editorial board. But I'll get into that. Also, thanks to Joe Biden, the price of an automobile in the United States, I made passing reference, the highest in the history of the world. The average new car price in America is $48,334. So how many cents? That's a pretty precise number. $48,000. And just when Joe Biden came in, that was not the case. Just a year ago, that was not the case. But this is what happens when leftists take over, and they're anti-capitalist and anti-American and everything else. In fact, last year, 1 year ago, there were 12 cars that you could buy for under $20,000, brand new cars I'm talking about, for under $20,000. Now there's one car you can buy for under $20,000. You know why? Democrats. That's the reason why, because they're stealing everything from everyone. You know how they are. Also, in Georgia, President Trump's arraignment is expected to be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. Trump, this is amazing stuff, right? So we got that, and it's all a terrible television show. But President Trump, what is it? The Reverend Al Sharpton this morning thought that he was insulting him when he called President Trump a showman. The Reverend Al Sharpton should know a thing or two about that. So we got that. Also, New Yorkers have had enough with the illegal aliens coming into New York, and now they're saying it out loud. And a front page piece in the Washington Post today. They're so filthy. They're so corrupt. Front page piece in the Washington Post today. A long story about how the terrible people in one New Jersey town along the seashore are objecting to all the windmills that the Democrats are putting up that are the size of skyscrapers in the ocean, right? And it's funny because this very lengthy Washington Post piece, they actually use the word whale, but they don't tell you how many whales have beached themselves and died this year by the dozens. And right where the windmills are going in, because the Democrats and the ships that they're using to drive the pilings into the ocean floor and stuff. So they're killing whales. They're killing these windmills, and the Democrats are killing more whales than the Japanese. We should invite Japan in to save the whales. They still love whaling, the Japanese. So the Democrats are killing whales. They used to attack the Japanese for killing whales. Now the liberals are killing more whales. You remember that whole Save the Whales thing? T-shirts and bumper stickers, Save the Whales. Now their mantra is kill the whales, put up a windmill. What do they care? Maybe we should have a T-shirt like that. What do you say? Save the windmills, kill the whales. Because that's what the Democrats are doing. Amazing stuff. And the Washington Post admits that the communists in China and Wuhan were lying to us all along. They're several years late, of course. And then we have our favorite Marxist lesbian library leader who is very upset about the angry white mob of parents that don't want to push queerness on the children. Her words, not mine. Can I call her her? Do we know what her pronouns are? And we are at 888-630-9625. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. I was reading a Washington Post piece today, a hateful piece, an angry, bitter piece. Special counsel says D.C. grand jury on Trump documents case has ended. It has ended. You see, new court filing details more of the government's efforts involving witnesses who allegedly lied to cover up crimes. This is about classified documents they'd never mentioned in the whole lengthy story. Joe Biden's classified documents in his garage in Delaware, in the office in Delaware, behind the Corvette and the garage. And they were stored in Chinatown, in a place for Chinatown for a while. They were stored above a steakhouse on Capitol Hill, classified documents. Never comes up in the lengthy story in the Washington Post by Devin Barrett, who is a corrupt person. If he's married to a man or a woman, that person shouldn't trust him. I know because I've read his journalism. And the story goes after, well, everybody, of course, and attacks a couple of people. Carlos de Oliveira is one. Carlos de Oliveira. They're trying to ensnare him and threatening him with prison unless he says bad things about President Trump, and it's terrible. And de Oliveira, and then another guy named Tavares is also in the crosshairs here of the prosecutors, and two Hispanic men. I don't know why they're such racists in their pursuit, but Yuscil Tavares and de Oliveira. And they're after him, and one is turning on the other, and the left loves this because they're fascists, right? And I made the mistake of clicking on the comments, and the first because it's online, it's on the internet, thanks to Al Gore, and the first comment is, "All need to be hounded until destitute and in prison." Now, for doing I guess Joe Biden needs to be hounded until destitute. That'd take a long time. And in prison, that probably wouldn't take too long. And so the Democrats are a very angry, bitter, because, the Democratic Party isn't. They're not liberals. They're the left. So much news, so little time. Tonight is, of course, the big Republican debate. Go into the candidates debate. And all kinds of crazy stuff going on there already because it's a nutty world. But Republican presidential long shot rushed to hospital right before first debate. The Daily Caller has the story. And it is, our political system is so nuts. North Dakota Republican governor and 2024 presidential candidate Doug Burgum, obviously a major frontrunner expected to win it all, hands down, not really, was rushed to the hospital late Tuesday night before the first Republican National Committee debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Daily Caller News Foundation confirmed with his campaign website. Burgum met the RNC's debate criteria by exceeding 40,000 unique donors, achieving the polling threshold, and signing the loyalty pledge to support the eventual nominee. The governor injured his leg while playing a game of basketball ahead of taking the stage on Wednesday, and it's unclear if he will be able to stand at the debate. The campaign spokesperson, neither a man nor a woman, but a spokesperson, told the Daily Caller News Foundation. Burgum's injury and hospital visit was first reported by the Cable News Network, which used to be a news organization. And it turns out, I believe he's already been released, right? He's out of the hospital. And now he's got to show up because otherwise you look like, you're weak. So you got to show up because you injured your leg playing basketball, and now you got to show up. So we got that. We got that going for us. And let me see. I've got another one for you because the news just keeps on rolling in. It's crazy out there. We now have an official cause of death. You remember Barack Obama's chef? Of course, the Obamas have a personal chef, and we have now an official report on the cause of death. The New York Post has this story. Cause of death of Barack Obama's personal chef, Tafari Campbell, revealed. It's been revealed. Remember, he was out paddleboarding, and which is a strange activity for somebody that just learned to swim very recently. But heck, and not wearing a life vest, even though he just learned to swim recently. Cause of death of Barack Obama's personal chef, Tafari Campbell, revealed. The New York Post reports the Obama family's beloved personal chef, Tafari Campbell, died of accidental drowning while paddleboarding in Martha's Vineyard, a lake there in Martha's Vineyard. An autopsy confirmed on Tuesday. Campbell's cause of death has officially been ruled submersion in a body of water. That's the government. When they say, did he drown? Well, it's as a result of submersion in a body of water. What does that mean? He drowned? Well, you have to waterboard him to get a straight answer. Yeah, he drowned. And the manner of death has been determined to be an accident. Of course it has. And you know what? Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, see, in a jail cell when all the cameras were off and there were no guards around, and he was on suicide watch, and he wasn't supposed to have the tools and the apparatus to commit suicide, and Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. And this is an accidental death. I'm just saying, no, this is everything for the official record. I just read the official record as the government releases it, just like CNN does and the Washington Post. So the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner of Massachusetts, Gesundheit. The results of Campbell's autopsy have not been made public as per state policy. Timothy McGurk, a spokesman for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, told the Washington Post, and they faithfully reproduce the official record. Now, this reminds me, and Michael Piercy and I were talking about this, reminds me of another incident in which the personal chef, the White House, under the Clintons, named Walter Scheib, he also died of drowning, which is kind of weird. Now, wait a minute, because, Tafari Campbell was the Obama's personal chef at the White House. Then when they left the White House, he left the White House and he came with them, Tafari Campbell, hanging out one of their many multi-million-dollar oceanfront mansions, and this one in Martha's Vineyard. And then he was just learning to swim. He posted videos of himself just learning to swim. Then there he is paddleboarding in a lake on Martha's Vineyard without a life vest on, and he somehow goes over, and then he somehow drowns with a paddleboard right there and no life vest. And now it's okay. You can trust the official report from the government because they would never lie. They always tell the truth. Then there's the story of Walter Scheib, just coincidentally. Walter Stanley Scheib III, as a matter of fact, who died in 2015. He was White House chef, executive chef, and then went with the Clintons. And strangely, he also drowned. He went missing in Taos, New Mexico. He had been out for a hike. He went hiking in Taos, New Mexico. You'd say, well, how do you drown hiking in Taos, New Mexico? But an autopsy revealed that Scheib died from drowning on or about June 13th of 2015. But he wasn't found dead until June 21st of 2015. And that's kind of an odd coincidence, don't you think? Because how many White House chefs are gonna drown? Sounds like if you're a White House chef or a former White House chef, for God's sake, stay away from the water. Or everywhere you go, wear a life vest or something, because it's dangerous out there for a White House chef. It's tough out there. What is it, tough out there for a pimp? Is that the tough out there for a pimp? And you think it's tough out there for a pimp. Crazy. That's pretty nuts. So we got that. But at least the Massachusetts government final report is out. Kind of delayed. Takes a long time for the government to do stuff. Then they come up with turns of phrase instead of using normal words like normal people. The cause of death is submersion in a body of water. It kind of sounds like somebody's holding you underwater, doesn't it? All right, now let's go to the nice lady. This is she self-identifies as Queen Petty Lex. How do we know she's a woman? How do we know that? She's a TikTok user, and we had to beep a lot. We had to pull out Sir Beep a lot because she speaks freely. And here is Queen. Now, because I was talking about this, and I talked about it yesterday. College in historically black college and university in Atlanta, Georgia, now mandating that when students come back, that they have to wear masks, but only for 2 weeks, because then everything will be okay after 2 weeks. And that makes sense. It is submit. You must submit, right? And so for the first 2 weeks of school at this college in Atlanta, you've got all the students, and I guess the faculty, they have to wear masks because we know that they work real good. They work real good. Those surgical masks and the cotton masks don't work at all, of course. And remember, Anthony Fauci said masks are real good, then said don't buy masks. And then later he said, I just lied and told you not to buy masks because I didn't want the hospitals to not be able to get masks. And if everybody bought them, then the hospitals couldn't get them. So I was lying, but it was a good lie. And the New York Times and the Washington Post agreed, because they lie all the time. And so the college in Atlanta, that's good. And then the Lionsgate Films, it's a Hollywood motion picture and television production organization, Lionsgate. You've seen a bunch of their stuff. And they mandated, because some people got the Wuhan at Lionsgate, so they mandated that everybody wear masks, right? And now there's a lot of talk. There is a lot of talk that the Democrats are looking to bring back mandates for vaccine boosters, And I said, even a lefty yesterday that I was talking to said, I'm not getting any more boosters. There's no way I'm getting any more boosters. Don't tell me to get any more boosters because I'm not getting them. All right? And I just sort of sat there and smiled because that means that he's a conspiracy theorist, a wild-eyed, MAGA hat-wearing, anti-government rapscallion, right? So that was kind of funny. That amused me. I thought it was entertaining. But the mandates are creeping back in, and there are a lot of people that think, and this is true. There are a lot of people that think. I don't necessarily think this, but I think you got to keep an eye on these people at all times. I don't necessarily think that the government is, planning an election year lockdown, crackdown. But we have so little trust in our government these days that there are a great many millions of Americans that think, gosh, here they come again with another round of mandates and vaccine booster mandates and mask mandates. Oh, and at the college also in Atlanta, they are mandating social distancing, no gathering in groups, right? So it sounds like 2020 all over again because Democrats, there are almost 100 colleges in the United States of America now that are mandating the COVID vaccine for students coming back to school or starting school. And if you don't have your government mandated injections of not very well tested viral doses, then you can't go to college, which might be the best thing for you at this point. But it's kind of an amazing thing. So an Atlanta college announced last week it's reinstating its mask mandate for everyone on campus. Morris Brown College. They are a historically black college and or university. And they had, until recently, lost their accreditation as an educational institution. Just got it back. But now they're mandating 14 days of mask wearing, even though they have no confirmed cases of COVID among students anywhere. Morris Brown also not allow any parties or large student gatherings on campus, and they want people to practice social distancing and contact tracing because they're acting, I guess they were lost in a time warp, right? Let's do the time warp again. Now, with that in mind, let's go to Queen Petty Lex, who posted a video on TikTok I want to share with you. Here's Queen Petty Lex. She is one of the people that is having none of this.
We don't give a about no new COVID strain, United States government. We don't give a Biden, you ass still got to get the on out. You still got to pack your bags and get the out. If I got to come to the White House and move you out myself, you still got to get the on out. Point blank, period. We don't give a about no new COVID strain. I was just thinking the other day, I hadn't heard Nathan about COVID. And then boom, here come a new mother COVID strain. We know that this is for the elections. We already know. We not dumb no more. Thank you, TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram for allowing us to get up here and find out the truth amongst one another. Cause you still gonna get the out Biden. Biden.
See, it turns out there's a little bit of a trick here. That's actually a red MAGA hat wearing white guy from South Dakota. Just kidding. Not really. Not at all. But that is a nice lady that calls herself Queen Petty Lex. And she's not a MAGA hat wearing white guy from South Dakota. I just think that the Democrats and the government, but I repeat myself, have lied to us all so many times, deceived us all, been wrong so many times that nobody trusts them anymore. I don't trust them. You don't trust them. And Queen Petty Lex, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say doesn't trust them either.
We already know. We not dumb no more.
And it's just a common sense test every day out here, isn't it? Every day is an IQ test. And Queen Petty Lex is onto them. And she's saying, no more of this, no more mandated vaccines or boosters. And there is allegedly a new strain out. And there's going to be a new strain out every 6 months or so. And that's because the communist Chinese, with the help of Anthony Fauci and U.S. taxpayer dollars, and they lied to us about this forever, didn't they? They lied to us about this forever and ever until they got caught. And then at the Washington Post, they acted like, well, we knew this all along. They're like 5-year-olds that are being caught in lies all the time. And so now there's a new strain that they're saying, and they, give it like an EG 5.23/6.2 name because they're a bunch of rectal apertures, I think is the thing. So a new strain, and I don't care. EG5, and you probably don't care either. EG5 is the abbreviation. Isn't that like a telephone, cell phone system, the EG5? Now it's a strain of COVID. And it all started at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which they lied to us about. They told us it didn't come from Wuhan. Then they said, it did come from Wuhan, but it came from the wet market. There's a thing called a wet market. If someone wanted to bring you to a place called the wet market to eat, would you say, yeah, let's go to the wet market? But it didn't come from the wet market. They were trying to blame it on poor people for having poor hygiene, right, at the wet market. But it turns out it came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, China, on the Yangtze River, which was once swum by Chairman Mao, the biggest murderer in the history of the world. And, they created a big propaganda photo out of it. They do that all the time now with Joe Biden, kind of Chairman Mao swimming the Yangtze River propaganda photos. But with him as dragging a beach chair across the sand in Delaware and falling up flights of stairs trying to get on Air Force One. All right, it's a little different. But I'm with Queen Petty Lex, and you should be too. We're at 888-630-9625. I've got big news from space. The Daily Mail has the story. India, that's a country in Asia. India's Chandrayaan-3, that's a spacecraft, lands on the moon's south pole. And according to the Daily Mail, India has landed, it's an unmanned, of course, craft, a probe, if you will. India has landed on the moon's south pole, an unmapped region of the surface of the moon. The nation now joins Russia, China, and the U.S. in landing on the moon. We're the only ones to land people on the moon to walk around and shift golf balls and drive dune buggies and stuff, but they've landed unmanned probes. Chandrayaan-3 will determine if water ice is hiding in the South Pole region. And if they find ice, they're going to open a restaurant, right? Because, naturally, what are you going to do?
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
He's not joking. And now apparently becomes true, according to Joe Biden, the south pole of the moon, too. Because they've landed there. They're looking for ice. There's ice, restaurant, and a convenience store. All right, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Glenda, calling from South Dakota. I won't call you the good witch. Glenda, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, greetings from South Dakota. I am one of those crazy mega wearing hats people from South Dakota that looks at Mount Rushmore out her front or back window every day.
That is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yep, and enjoying you on Newsmax, and we're enjoying you in the morning, listen to you. But I wanted to give you an update on the Kristi Noem commercials that you see, like every other commercial in the world, in every state from Hawaii to Virginia. All of our friends are telling us, we're seeing Kristi Noem all the time.
Yep.
She started out as a plumber and a dentist, and then she was a welder, and now she's an electrician. Can you believe that?
Yeah, we just saw the electrician thing last night, and at the end, I think all the lights go out in the state house, right?
Yeah, she better not do that to the rest of us. But anyway, no, but she was the most honest potential challenger to Donald Trump for president. Told people when they asked her, "Are you going to run for president?" She said, "No, I'm not, because I can't beat Donald Trump." So she's not going to run.
Oh, no kidding. Well, do you think
she said.
Would you want her? Do you love her as governor?
I support her because it's kind of one of those things. The alternative is never good. She's done a good job. We have to watch her. We have to keep her honest. She the person who kept us open. But actually, she wanted to shut down South Dakota, but our legislature in Tier, our capital, said, "No way, Jose," and we ended up staying open and not owing to the money and things that were coming in.
Well, good for you. And I know South Dakota is a wonderful place to live. Americans live there, real Americans. And I need to get to Mount Rushmore. I haven't been there yet.